The streets of Azerbaijan's capital, Baku, were jubilant as word of a peace deal set in. After 6 weeks of fighting between Azerbaijan and Armenia over the occupied territory of Nagorno-Karabakh, an agreement to end the conflict has been reached. But given past ceasefires falling apart before the ink even dried, will this time be any different? Haydar Abbasi explains.
Celebrating victory. Hundreds filled Baku's streets after hearing the war had ended. After 6 weeks of fighting, a ceasefire has been agreed to.
Today is a historic day for our country. Today, the Armenian-Azerbaijani Nagorno-Karabakh conflict is coming to an end. I think that the recently signed tripartite statement will be the last point in resolving the issue.
The truce was brokered by Russia and signed by the warring parties. But it's Azerbaijan that gets the most out of this deal. Baku will hold on to any territories recaptured in occupied Karabakh. And according to President Aliyev, his military has retaken 300 settlements from the region. Turkish and Russian soldiers will be deployed to monitor the ceasefire.
Türkiye, anlaşmanın uygulanmasını gözetmek ve denetlemek üzere bölgede kurulacak ortak barış gücünde Rusya ile birlikte yer alacaktır.
But fury from the other side. Protesters attacked the parliament building in Armenia's capital, Yerevan. They say agreeing to the truce is a betrayal. And some demanded the resignation of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. Overwhelmed by Azerbaijan's military, Pashinyan says he was left with few options.
In the existing situation, there was no chance of making another decision. I plan to go into more details over why and what was the reason behind the last month's events. I can't do it right now for one simple reason. Because stopping military actions is the main process right now, and if I say something, I can endanger people.
The peace deal was signed shortly after Azerbaijan took control of Shusha, the second largest city in Karabakh. Armenia's leadership was worried that if the war continued, the whole of the territory could have been lost. The latest outbreak of fighting is part of a decades-old conflict, and it all centers on the occupied region of Nagorno-Karabakh. The area falls within Azerbaijan's borders, but most of the people living there are ethnically Armenian. War broke out in 1988 after separatists tried to seize the region. Following a ceasefire in 1994, Karabakh was left under Armenian control. And now the latest ceasefire. But seeing how past agreements to stop the fighting have failed, will this be enough to prevent another war? Haydar Abbasi, Straight Talk.
And joining me now from Washington, D.C. is Michael Doran. He is a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute. And from Baku, Nigar Arpadarai. She is a member of the Azerbaijani parliament. A warm welcome to you both. It's good to have you on the Straight Talk. So, Nigar, what could you tell us about the mood in Azerbaijan after this peace agreement was brokered?
Thank you very much for having me. Well, it's definitely a big victory for us. It's a great moment for our nation, for our country, because it's a step forward, but there is still a lot of work to be done because we are still to return our refugees back, so we have to build our local governments as system. But overall, of course, we celebrate, people are happy because our number one priority was to restore our territorial integrity and to give a chance to our refugees to go back. So this is the, and from the videos, you can see how happy people are, because even myself, my grandma was from Shusha, and I always wanted to be able to go there because these are our lands, and we always wanted to be able to go to our lands.
All right.
So it's the justice that have been restored.
Okay, so Michael, how will this peace deal reshape the balance of power in the region? And has this agreement rendered the Minsk group as well as the European Union's role irrelevant?
I think it has certainly eclipsed the Minsk Group. The Minsk Group may become relevant again, but for the moment, there's been a very significant change in the whole pattern of power in the region. The big change here is the arrival of Turkey as the major player on the Azerbaijani side. Turkey hasn't completely supplanted Russia, but it has earned a place for itself at the table with Russia. So the key game on the ground is between Russia and Turkey. With the Minsk Group, the other members of the Minsk Group, the United States and France, operating mainly as bystanders.
So, Nigar, you just mentioned the return of refugees and setting up of regional governments in the region, but does this agreement entail any risks? Are there any sticking points that should be dealt with by Azerbaijan and Turkey? And do you believe this agreement safeguards Azerbaijan's territorial integrity for the long term?
Well, again, this peace deal, which ends the military hostilities in the occupied territories, is the demonstration of Azerbaijan's will to reach sustainable peace and to restore Azerbaijan's territorial integrity. Because our goal was to restore our territorial integrity. We've been in negotiations with Armenia for almost 30 years. And we've been coming close, but every time we've been going to some practical steps, Armenia would come up with any excuses to keep status quo and to turn it into a frozen conflict, which was unacceptable for us. So for this moment, again, this is the continuation of our coherent policy based on respect of international law and our constitution. But as I said, we still have lots of things to be done. We still have to make sure that our refugees go back and etc. So there's the whole way.
So Michael, will Armenia, given its current political problems at home, be able to abide by this agreement? And what's next for Pashinyan?
Well, one of the most interesting aspects of this whole war was the tension between Pashinyan and Putin. And I think that a lot of people believe, with good reason, that Putin used this war as an opportunity to discipline Pashinyan. And that Russia comes out stronger, Armenia comes out weaker, and I think the future of Mr. Pashinyan is very much in doubt.
So, Nigar, do you believe Azerbaijan's... you can continue on that, if you like.
Yeah, if you ask me, I think that there's a big question for me whether Armenia is at all capable of sticking this agreement achieved, because the signs for now that it will not happen, because Armenia is turning into a rogue state. I keep repeating that because you see what is happening there. Their president came up saying that he had no idea about this agreement and the statement made. So for me, it's a big question whether Armenia will be able to keep at all to stick to it, because again, what is happening there, it's quite disturbing, and implications for Pashinyan is that well, he's again not capable of deciding and implementing in a consistent manner, because his statements always vary. He lies in media. We've seen that throughout this period that he has been in power. So again, to us, after everything that Armenia government has done, the only concern whether they will keep us. I think that they have to revisit all that they have done. So they have to reconsider their politics.
But on the other hand, Nigar, do you believe that Azerbaijan's operations were deliberately cut short after the liberation of Shusha, which would have proceeded to Hankendi, which is dominated by ethnic Armenians? What's your take on that?
No, again, in the ideal world, there should be no need for peacekeepers, because we are a strong state and we are capable of providing our people with safety and prosperity. But again, there is some process that is going on. The future of, I think that our government does not aim to harm anyone, and the fact that peacekeepers are there is the proof to that. So again, I think that for us, it's a very big victory. It's a step forward. And again, I would like to reconfirm that our territorial integrity is restored.
So, Michael, what impact will this outcome have on relations between Turkey and Russia? They're on the opposing sides in various conflicts like Libya and Syria. Will they be more dependent or mistrustful with each other?
I think this is absolutely the key question for me personally, for somebody who's interested in the American role in all of this. The Turkey and Russia are now circling each other like fighters. And one moment they stop the fight, another moment they start the fight. The question is, where's the United States in this? Because at a certain point, Russia is going to try to return to the status quo ante in the Caucasus, where it is the hegemonic power. Right now, it's the dominant power, and it has to share power with Turkey. The United States should come in behind Turkey. The United States and the West should come in behind Turkey and increase its ability to deter Russia, an ability that is remarkable. It's a huge change in the politics of the region, and it's a positive change for the West.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the West has been distracted and is not paying attention.
So, Nigar, what's your take on that? Will we see a waning or increase of Russian influence in region, considering the role its peacekeepers will play?
Well, what we see, we've seen that the essence of the conflict resolution burden is on shoulders of the sides, Azerbaijan and Armenia. And in order to be sustainable, it's on the shoulders of large regional countries. And two countries are Russia and Turkey. Of course, we wanted to see more international community, but international community failed to resolve this conflict because 4 UN Security Council resolutions remained unenforced. So yes, Turkey and Russia are two big countries in the region, and their involvement, I think, has the positive thing. And also the difference between so we are trying to sort this out within our region. And the difference between our approach and Armenia's approach is that Azerbaijan wants positive engagement with our neighbors and achieve sustainable resolution to the conflict. Armenia wanted to widen the geography of the conflict and drag in third countries into the conflict. So this is the difference.
Yeah. So details are still being worked out. Michael, do you believe Russia is trying to sideline Turkey from this whole process?
Well, I think they're trying to get the upper hand, and I think Putin played his hand very well in that regard. My assumption, I don't have any clear information about it, but my assumption is that the Azerbaijanis stopped their campaign because they were given a red line by Putin. They were afraid that if they went into Khankandy, that the Russians would intervene directly. So the Russians were able to convince the Azerbaijanis to come to the table by offering some very significant sweeteners. The voluntary in quotation marks withdrawal of the Armenian forces from some of the occupied territories and the corridor to Nakhchivan. We'll have to wait and see how well that corridor plays out.
Yes.
That could be a major stabilizing factor, but the Russians might play games with it, and they might play games with the corridor. They might play games with terrorist attacks in Karabakh. There's all kinds of ways that they could fudge on this deal. We have to see how it plays out.
And Nigar, what do you make of some of the international media outlets' zero coverage of the events and their narrative that Turkey sent Syrians to fight the war there?
No, again, the whole story with Syrians, with mercenaries, is really ridiculous. And Turkey is our closest ally and has been supporting us politically throughout the process. And we have military cooperation deals with many countries of the world. And the whole discussion of mercenaries being in Azerbaijan, this is something that Pashinyan and his government was trying to fake and to convince the West to kind of wake up their medieval crusader, let's say, feelings in them. So it was the fake news all over. And just to add something to Nakhchivan thing, part of Azerbaijan, Nakhchivan was in blockade for 30 years, and deblocking of Nakhchivan for transport routes via Armenia is a very critical step. I just wanted to make this addition that it's by no means step similar to, for example, Lachin Corridor. The difference with Lachin Corridor is that it is there in order to provide humanitarian link. There is the essence of it. As for Nakhchivan Corridor, this is the partial restoration of historical justice and its removal of blockade of part of Azerbaijan from Armenian blockade, let's say.
All right, Nigar, Michael, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining us.